I'd like to wish everyone a Purim Sameach for this year. May Hashem give us true salvation and merit v'nehafuchu. All our suffering in spirit of Purim should turn to happiness and simcha in soon, Be'ezrat Hashem. We've been asked a few questions. First and foremost, about this year, how to do the Purim holiday and celebrate the Seudat Purim. Basically, because it's on Friday, whereas we usually have the Seudah quite late in the afternoon, and therefore we're not concerned about the night. But here, since the night is Shabbat, so there are a measure of options on how one should conduct himself this year in terms of the Seudat Purim. The simplest way to get out of the issues of compromising on the Shabbat Seudah is to start your meal before midday. Midday this year is about 12:10. So to start having the Seudat Purim in the morning, and you could eat whatever you wish, any meat, anything like this, hamotzi and anything, because it's a Seudat mitzvah. Since normally we're not allowed on Friday to have any Seudah that's in excess of the regular types of Seudot that we have. However, when it comes to Seudat mitzvah, it's permitted. However, a recommendation of the later rabbis is that even though it's permitted, the Mishnah Berurah brings down, as well as others, in order not to cause a problem or a desecration of the Friday night meal, we have it early, before Hatzot, before midday. And that is the suggested manner that we recommend everyone perform this year. And then you could have anything you need. There is another option which is a little bit more complicated. If a person wishes to have his meal later, he then can, there's a way that he can pray mincha, combine his meal with the Shabbat meal. When Shabbat comes, he makes Kiddush and Kabbalat Shabbat, continues his meal, and then says Arbit after. That's a little complicated. We definitely would recommend the former, that he has his meal before Hatzot Yom, midday, and then he has no problems. We've been also asked some questions about celebrating the second Purim during a pandemic. So the question is, people not wishing to gather in large groups, or some who can't even leave their homes because they might be quarantined. First of all, we definitely would recommend smaller gatherings, more minyanim, smaller, maybe even house minyanim, to read the Megillah, to avoid large gatherings. Of course, we would do it with social distancing and masks and everything as per the regulations. For those who cannot leave the home and who are maybe quarantined, how do they hear the Megillah? So the best approach would be, as we recommended to certain people last year, to actually purchase or attain a kosher Megillah in the house and read it amongst themselves if they can. If they cannot, they can follow with a taped reading or zoom into one of the many minyanim that are there. I'm assuming most minyanim will have a zoom option, and follow reading your kosher Megillah with the reader. You make your own berachot, and you would then continue reading with the reader, and this way you fulfilled your obligation from a kosher Megillah. If that is not an option, if you must stay at home and there is no way for you to attain a kosher Megillah, then you read it from the Humash as best as you can, from a Humash, but you cannot make berachot. And that would be certainly a secondary option. Again, not the ideal. For those, obviously those people who are quarantined will be praying at home and be praying the Yahid according to all of those situations. In terms of the day before the reading, which is Ta'anit Esther, Ta'anit Esther is what we would call the least severe of all the fasts. And therefore, even for people who are ill, even if there's no sakanat nefashot, even if for people who are ill, they are exempt from that fast. This doesn't mean someone who's hungry because he's fasting, but it means any illness. So that would include, of course, pregnant and nursing women are exempt. And that would also include somebody who is certainly suffering from COVID, or someone who recently recuperated from COVID. If you refer back to some of the notes we made, even on Kippur, there were leniencies. Certainly in Ta'anit Esther, anybody who is feeling at all ill from a recent illness, be it COVID or not, is exempt from fasting on Ta'anit Esther. We hope and pray, B'ezrat Hashem, that this will be the last time we would have to make these announcements, and B'ezrat Hashem will look forward to a time very quickly where this pandemic will be behind us, and we will turn a new chapter, and B'ezrat Hashem, we will be able to celebrate all our holidays properly, festively, with an appropriate minyan. One other note, when it comes certainly to Mishloach Manot and Seudat Purim. Seudat Purim, one should limit the amount of people getting together, obviously. Certainly in Mishloach Manot, I would also mention that the amount of Mishloach Manot one has to send is 2 foods to 1 person. That's it. That's the basic halacha. Yes, we do much more, and it's a great thing, and we're much more festive. However, in light of a pandemic era, one should try to limit the amount of homes that he visits this year, and limit the performance of the mitzvah to a more basic function of the mitzvah. And maybe spend a little bit more time in charitable exercises, matanot le'evyonim. As Rambam tells us that with a choice, it would be better to spend much more time on matanot le'evyonim than on mishloach manot or seudat purim. Maybe we can make that a practice this year, and deal with matanot le'evyonim, giving tzedakah to those who are unfortunate in performance of hesed. Again, seudat purim should be somewhat curtailed, as should be mishloach manot, to the basic, more minimal standards of the mitzvah that should be fulfilled. Hag Sameach.